My girlfriend's childhood friend deliberately mistranslated everything I said to her father, telling him I called Japanese food disgusting and his company a joke. He was furious until I surprised everyone by responding in perfect Japanese and absolutely destroyed his favorite employee with flawless business Japanese. Before my girlfriend Mika first brought me to meet the father of his company in Japan, I was scared shitless. She had told me dozens of stories about how traditional this man was, and let me tell you, the guy was intense. One time, a foreign employee showed up to a meeting 5 minutes late, and her dad still calls him Late Larry 3 years later. Another time, someone poured soy sauce directly on the rice at a company dinner, and her dad muttered Abingin Barbarian under his breath. The worst part, her dad was also going to be my boss. Mika promised he'd hire me at his trading company, but I was still scared because I was a purebred American, and I knew it was a big dream of his for Mika to marry a Japanese businessman. Fuck, the pressure was real. In the months leading up to meeting him, I went absolutely crazy with preparation. I spent 2 hours every day studying Japanese culture, business hotels, office districts, even corporate drinking parties. I practically lived and breathed the shiz until I had formed a complete script in my head of how to act and speak. Mika, of course, didn't know any of this. I kept it secret because I didn't want her to think I was desperate. But honestly, I was desperate as hell. When the day came, I walked into that restaurant and bowed at exactly the right angle when introduced. I waited for him to sit first, poured his beer immediately, and responded properly to everything. I called him Shacho and kept my mouth shut unless spoken to. I knew things were going well when his secretary kept filling my tea, smiling about how polite I was. And her dad didn't speak English, but it really seemed like he liked me too. He would nod every time I said hi at the right moments and complained about young people these days as if I wasn't American. Now you're probably wondering how I understood what he was saying. Well, I went behind Mika's back in the best possible way. While studying Japanese business culture, I started taking intensive Japanese lessons. I didn't want to say anything about it because I wanted to surprise her at our wedding. So up until this point, it had been around 6 months of lessons, and I could hear how well Mr. Tanaka was speaking of me to his secretary. Mika was practically glowing with pride. I had no idea that it was the calm before the storm. There was just one person who made it abundantly clear that I was an unwanted guest, and that was Hiram, Mika's childhood friend who worked at the company. This guy constantly made snide remarks in English about how I was taking advantage of the boss's daughter. Made jokes about how I was probably just here for a visa. But I was convinced I would win him over eventually, and just shrugged it off. Big mistake. The next time I was there for a big client dinner, things had completely changed. When me and Mika showed up at the private room, her dad barely acknowledged me and asked Mika in Japanese, "Why is the foreigner here for important business?" Mika looked just as confused as me, but just rolled her eyes before we sat down. The clients arrived, and Mr. Tanaka served everyone premium sushi and wagyu beef. Meanwhile, he pointed me to a plate of natto mixed with raw squid and fermented fish guts. There was so much of that cheese that the smell made everyone shift away from me. Just before I could ask for rice to mix it with, Mr. Tanaka turned to Mika and said, "This was always Kenji's favorite." That's when everything made sense. Kenji was her Japanese ex from university who worked at Mitsubishi. Her father hadn't accepted me, he was still hoping she'd go back to her ex. So there I was, pretending to eat fermented fish guts while my future hung in the balance. When Hiro turned to my future boss and the clients and said in Japanese, "The American just told me Japanese business culture is outdated," I froze. My girlfriend opened her mouth to speak, but I lightly touched her wrist under the table because I had to test the waters. "This dinner is really wonderful," I said in English, with a completely straight face. "He says Japanese food is disgusting and he wants McDonald's," Hiro translated. Mr. Tanaka's face went red, and he started apologizing to the clients. The room was silent. I couldn't even hide my smile. "Thank you for including me in this important meeting," I said. "He said your company is a joke and Americans do everything better," Hiro lied. That's when I looked directly at Mr. Tanaka and said in perfect business Japanese, "Watashi wa rockagete ka nihongo wo benkou shite mosu, anata no museum tikaken shiten desu, Hiro go yakushita koto wasabi yuza desita. I've been studying Japanese for 6 months. I want to marry your daughter." Everything Hiro translated was a lie. My girlfriend nearly spit out her wine. Even the secretary gasped and covered her mouth. The clients sat back, absolutely fascinated. Hiro tried to recover, stammering excuses, but it was over. I had won, and I didn't know it at the time, but Hiro was still plotting revenge through his connections. It wasn't long before he turned my entire life upside down. Monday morning arrived with the kind of tension that made my stomach churn. I walked through the glass doors of Tanaka Trading, trying to maintain the confidence I'd shown at the dinner. Something felt off from the moment I stepped inside. When I reached my assigned desk, I stopped cold. Natto covered every inch of the surface, mixed with squid ink that dripped onto the floor. The smell hit me like a physical force. A piece of paper sat in the center, the black ink bleeding through. Gauge and go home. What the fuck? My phone buzzed. Mika's text came through frantically. Are you at the office? People are saying things, terrible things about you. As I cleaned up this mess, I noticed Sato from accounting taking photos with his phone. He didn't even try to hide it. By the time I'd cleaned enough to work, 3 clients had already called to cancel their appointments. This shiz was coordinated. During lunch, I headed to the building entrance for fresh air. Hiro stood there, leaning against the wall with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Security had blocked him from entering the building. Chacha won't protect you forever, he called out, loud enough for arriving employees to hear. Back inside, the HR manager pulled me into a private meeting. Hiro had filed a formal complaint before leaving the company, claiming wrongful termination and discrimination. The paperwork sat thick on her desk. My phone buzzed again. Mika sent screenshots of her Instagram, flooded with anonymous messages claiming I was using her for a visa, for money, that I'd said horrible things about Japanese women. This guy was really trying to destroy my entire life. The afternoon brought more cancellations. Mr. Tanaka's jaw tightened with each phone call. His faith in me was being tested, and we both knew it. Building security showed me footage from the coffee shop across from the parking garage. Hiro met with 3 current employees there every evening after work. The timestamp showed yesterday at 6 p.m. When I left at night, I found something on my windshield, a business card from Hiro's new company with better offer inside written on the back in his handwriting. I crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. The audacity of this guy. The next morning, my train commute turned chaotic when someone accidentally spilled coffee on my suit. I recognized the person from Hiro's social media posts they worked at his new firm. The stain spread across my jacket as other passengers moved away. Mika's mother called her that afternoon, upset. Her temple friends had heard I planned to take Mika to America to separate her from her family. The rumors were spreading faster than we could counter them, but I wasn't going down without a fight. Tanaka Trading Senior Manager, Tanabe, approached me after observing my lobby work session. He'd been with the company 15 years and commanded respect across all departments. The coffee shop away from the office, Tanabe revealed his own history with Hiro. Years ago, Hiro had tried to undermine him during a promotion opportunity. The tactics were familiar: whispered rumors, mysterious technical problems, social isolation. Konoiari wa tsumo onaji koto wo suru desu basu. It always does the same thing, Tanabe said, shaking his head. An unexpected ally emerged: the janitor. Tanaka had no relation to the boss. He pulled me aside one evening, revealing that Hiro had approached him before leaving the company, offering money for information about my daily habits. The janitor had refused and kept quiet until now. Security footage from the cafe meetings provided clearer images. We could identify 3 current employees meeting regularly with Hiro. The evidence was building. A former colleague from Hiro's university reached out through LinkedIn. She'd seen the anonymous blog post and recognized the writing style. Hiro had orchestrated similar campaigns against 2 other students who'd outperformed him academically. The shiz went back years. The soccer presentation loomed 3 weeks away, and I arrived at the office before sunrise, determined to prepare despite the obstacles. The conference room I'd reserved had been mysteriously double booked. When I got to Osaka, the clients greeted me coolly. Hiro sat at the conference table, introduced as their new efficiency consultant. He'd been advising them for 2 weeks, plenty of time to plant seeds of doubt. Throughout my presentation, Hiro interrupted with clarification requests in rapid-fire Japanese. He questioned specific word choices, implied my language skills weren't sophisticated enough for complex negotiations. But I prepared for this. My innovative distribution proposal captured their interest despite his interference. I'd spent weeks analysing their specific challenges, and my solutions addressed real problems his generic consulting couldn't match. After the meeting, Hiro approached me in the hotel lobby. He made his offer clear: leave Japan within a month, and the harassment would stop. He'd even provide a positive reference for opportunities back in America. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Satanai da, absolutely not." His composure finally cracked at an industry networking event. He confronted me near the registration table, his voice rising as he accused me of stealing his life. Several industry veterans witnessed his outburst. "You stole everything from me," he shouted. "Miko was supposed to be mine." And there it was, the truth finally came out. The confrontation escalated when I maintained silent professionalism. Hiro's frustration mounted as I refused to engage. He grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around as security moved toward us. Physical contact crossed a line that witnesses wouldn't forget. In Japanese business culture, losing composure publicly was career suicide. 2 employees who'd been meeting with Hiro approached me privately the next day. They admitted accepting small payments for information, but wanted to make things right. They'd grown uncomfortable with his increasingly desperate demands. The major contract announcement came on a Thursday afternoon. Tanaka Trading had won with my innovative proposal, beating Hiro's price-focused offer. Quality had overcome sabotage. But the real victory came during a cultural event Mika's family attended. Hiro's mother was present, and when the instructor mentioned the business community drama, she approached Mika's family with tearful apologies. She had no idea about her son's behavior. Industry newsletter coverage shifted the narrative significantly. The article about foreign talent succeeding in Japanese business featured my photo and quoted board members about next generation leadership. The full truth about Hiro's jealousy emerged during the Golden Week celebration at a major hotel ballroom. He approached me slowly, his usual swagger replaced by uncertainty. He pulled out his phone and showed me old university photos. Mika appeared in several, laughing with classmates. In each one, Hiro stood slightly apart, watching her with longing. "I loved her first," he said quietly. "I was supposed to marry her." The revelation came through broken admissions. He'd never confessed his feelings, convinced she saw him only as a childhood friend. When she started dating her ex, he'd convinced himself it was temporary. But when she brought me home, speaking of marriage plans, something inside him had snapped. The Business Ethics Committee delivered their final verdict. The investigation confirmed patterns of corporate espionage, harassment, and ethical violations spanning months. The formal censure effectively ended Hiro's career prospects at any reputable firm in Tokyo. Industry leaders implemented an informal blacklist. Word spread quickly through executive networks about the liability he represented. His professional future in Tokyo's business community had effectively ended. His desperate social media campaign intensified with wild accusations. He claimed discrimination, ranted about corruption, promised to expose the truth. The increasingly unhinged posts only reinforced concerns about his mental state. Mr. Tanaka made his announcement during the formal ceremony. He introduced me as a future executive, praising my handling of recent challenges. Public endorsement carried weight in our traditional industry. Industry recognition followed with the Newcomer of the Year award. The selection committee specifically mentioned my innovative Osaka proposal and professional conduct under pressure. Accepting the award, I kept my speech focused on gratitude rather than dwelling on difficulties. That's how you win with glass. I encountered Hiro one last time at Tokyo Station. He was loading boxes into a taxi, preparing to leave for a position in rural Kyushu. We made eye contact briefly before he looked away, the fight completely gone from his expression. A small firm there, unconnected to Tokyo's business networks, had offered him a junior position. The role was far below his previous status, but it provided a chance to start over. Mika and I announced our engagement at a family dinner. My parents' full support, and 3 months of demonstrated commitment, made the moment especially meaningful. The wedding planning proceeded without interference. Hiro's complete absence from Tokyo meant no disruption to our celebration. The ceremony was perfect, a blend of American and Japanese traditions that honored both cultures. Our first child arrived during cherry blossom season the following year. The timing felt symbolic new beginnings after a difficult period. Mr. Tanaka's joy at becoming a grandfather transcended any lingering concerns about cultural differences. The company expanded internationally under collaborative leadership. My proposals for Western partnerships, combined with traditional Japanese business values, created unique competitive advantages. Industry recognition continued with speaking invitations and board positions. Each achievement felt earned through perseverance rather than privilege. The challenges had actually accelerated my career progression. Looking back, Hira's vendetta had paradoxically strengthened my position. Every attack had forced me to prove competence and build alliances. The adversity had accelerated my integration into Japanese business culture.